we will do a welcome on his behalf. So
I'm here.
Oh, Gordon, you're there. Excellent.
Yes,
well,
yes, I am. I was just looking at changing my name from EBU host to Gordon Rainsford, but now that I've said it, people can work it out. I'm only going to make a very brief introduction anyway to say that I'm delighted to see so many of you here, but not surprised because it is a very important topic, and I know that we've got various subjects to discuss, so I shall pass straight back to Tim for the first topic that we're going to listen to. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gordon, and I'd like to just add my own welcome to this online session, and a big thank you to the speakers who've made it possible, and to all of you for making time to attend. We have got a lot of excellent content. It will be fast-paced, but a recording will be available, and there will be further resources and downloads from some of our speakers. So between all those things, I think we'll be able to fit plenty in. We do welcome your comments and your questions, but because of the tight schedule, we would prefer you to keep them to the end of each talk, or to type them in the chat. If you type them in the chat, then they might get spotted and picked up by the speaker anyway. If you do want to ask a question, Zoom has a raise hand facility you can use, and we will see that. And we'll also stay here at the end of the session for questions and discussions for as long as it takes. So if we can't fit in your question immediately, we'll get to it later. Now, I'm just going to see if I can share my screen. Right. Coming up. Okay, so yeah, helping inquirers discover your club. I want to share some work that we've been doing on a new club directory for our website. The EBU website is one of the most visited bridge websites in the country. We've known for a long time that we need to do more to make our clubs, which are the heart of the EBU in many ways, more discoverable, as well as providing a better service to bridge inquirers who come to our site, whether they are experienced bridge players, perhaps they've moved and looking for a new club, or new inquirers who just want to learn or perhaps return to bridge. Currently we have a find a club or teacher facility on our website. It's quite popular and well used, but it doesn't really give you many clues about which club might suit you best. And of course it is combined with teachers. We do, if you click on the club name, provide a schedule of sessions, but that's not always up to date. It's completely dependent on the club being diligent about maintaining that schedule in the club login. Many of them don't do that, and then that because many of them don't do it, people don't rely on it, and then there's less incentive to keep it up to date, and so on. Also, that schedule does not take account of things like special events, closures because of bank holidays and all the rest of it. So it's not a terribly reliable guide to what sessions the club is actually going to be running. What I'm going to show you is work in progress. There may be some bugs or odd behavior, but I'm going to show you our new Find a Club directory, and hopefully I can get this up. Right. So Find a Bridge Club, this is our new directory, which is work in progress, and we can search as before by postcode. And get a list of clubs. Now you see that in the list, we've got a bit more information before immediately there. Location, some things like, is the hosting, is the teaching, is the gentle bridge. We've put the focus here onto the kinds of things that you might want to know if you're not, if you're more in the novice direction than you are sort of bridge expert looking for a new club, because we sort of want to prioritize those. We think that the experts will find their way anyway. So we want to make it very obvious to those more kind of novice or socially oriented inquirers what might be suitable for them. You can also filter just for teaching clubs. And if you do that, this is based on the information that you've told us about what sort of teaching you offer, if any. And again, this is very useful for people who are starting out. They want to learn bridge. They want to know which clubs they can go to. So we've simply defined that on the basis of the information you've given us. We haven't done any research. We simply take the information you tell us and surface it in this directory. I will, of course, be telling you later how you can update that information. We do realize that not every club has the resources to offer teaching, though we also know that bringing new players into the game is essential for the future of bridge. The ideal, I think, would be for every club to have a positive response when someone comes along and says, you know, I want to learn bridge. I've heard about bridge. I know friends who enjoy it. I want to learn. Even if that teaching on offer is not directly with the club, but might be referred to the county or to a teacher or to an online teacher. So we can also search by name, which oddly you couldn't do before. That's if you know what club you're looking for, or you can search by county. And we'll take off the teaching clubs only. Now, if you click on a club name, you get more information. And there's a few points that I want to mention here. One is that we know that clubs will want to write their own description about their club. This is very important to capture the club's character and give people some sort of clues about why they might or might not find it the club for them. So we will be adding that to things that you can update yourself immediately. We don't have it yet, but we will do soon. Secondly, for those clubs that use bridge webs, and we know that not every club use bridge webs, but a lot of our clubs do, and if they maintain a session calendar, we, by cooperation with bridge webs, surface that calendar here. So what you see here are the actual sessions that are in the calendar for Nottingham Bridge Club for, you know, from today onwards. So this will take account if Nottingham is running a special session, a special competition, a special event, and as long as they put it in bridge webs, that will be surfaced here. So that is a lot more informative than just like, here's the normal schedule and it may or may not be running this week. It also means that as long as you keep bridge webs up to date, which a lot of our clubs do, you don't need to worry about the information here. It will be automatically up to date, rather than having to go to two places to keep it up to date. Now, going down, we're also showing useful information about the club facilities. Of course, we have a map, which you know, has the usual sort of facilities for zooming and so on. And again, we have the information that you've told us on things like, if you're in a wheelchair, can you get in? The teaching on offer is a gentle duplicate. Are the boards pre-dealt with a dealing machine, refreshments? What's the parking situation? All those sorts of things. We've also put as a fixed piece of information, warm welcome. All EBU clubs listed here committed to maintaining a friendly atmosphere and welcoming players of all levels. That might need a little bit of modification, but we really want to shake off the notion that EBU clubs are so serious and competitive that newcomers will be intimidated. It is, of course, possible to put some clues into the club description as to where the club sits on the scale of, at one end, the highest possible standard of bridge and deep involvement in competitions, and at the other end, a more social style of bridge where results are less important than enjoyment. And some clubs can do both those things with a mix of sessions. And of course, we also link to the club website. We could potentially put a phone number and email address on this page. We haven't done so yet, partly because we want to be sure that clubs are happy to have that showing, and partly because of complications like, do we encourage spam email, phone numbers that may not always be answered, and things like that. Now, a few practicalities. How do you add and amend information in the new directory? And why has it taken so long for us to improve on the old one? Well, the answer to the first is that we have a new online club information form. I'm showing you our test club here, but all the information which is on the directory is essentially added on this form. And this replaces our old system, which was based on emailing you a Word form for completion and mailing back to us, which was a very difficult system for all of us. You can see that the information here matches exactly what is on the club directory, though it is presented slightly differently. You can also see that the checkbox include an EBU public web directory. So if for any reason, and our test club is a good example, you don't want the club to appear, you just don't check that box and it won't appear at all. Information that's entered here is by and large instantly updated on our system, though it might take 24 hours to synchronize our databases, but essentially it's an instant system. You don't need to involve us. You just come along here, log in with the same login you use for MyEBU, update the information, and it's done. And the answer to the second question, why has it taken so long for us to do this? Well, it's a number of reasons, but it's partly because we've done a lot of work on our IT systems, most of which is not very interesting, but it's taken our time. And we've also, in the last few years, updated our website. We weren't ready to do the new club directory until we had that in place. And also the form I've shown you with the online update, all of that had to be in place before we could do this. So what next? These are the action points. First, we want your feedback. Are we doing the right thing? Have we got the right information in the form? All those sorts of things. Second, we do want you to complete or update that online club details form if you haven't done already. I think about 1/3 of our clubs have done that. That means 2/3 have not. So we'd love you to do that. If you use bridge webs, keep the calendar up to date, make the session descriptions clear because they get surfaced. So if it's online, put online in the description and so on, then we'll get that onto our site as well. Think about bridge teaching, whether you can have a positive answer if you don't already to someone who comes and says, I want to learn bridge. That's super important. It's the future of our game. That's it. Yeah. Any questions?
Yes, Tim, can I ask a question?
Yes, of course. Yeah.
Yeah. When is this going to be up and running? You said it was in development. So when
that's a yeah.
When is it actually going to be running?
Yeah, it's a very good question. I don't know the answer. I think we are quite close, but that's subject to, because it's all quite new. You know, it's still being discussed internally. We've got a few things to fix. So I would certainly hope within a couple of months or so that it will be up and running.
Okay. And is there one person that you need to liaise with from a committee at all, or is it expected that everything will just be done online?
Well, the update is dependent on the club login to MyEBU. So that's the login that is used for uploading sessions. It's the login that's used for adding members. So whomever in the club has access to that login would be able to do the update. It's really up to the club to decide how they work that. Whether you want to designate one person to do this information and how you do that, we would not mandate to clubs how they do that. But that's as simple as that. It's the login for MyEBU for the club.
Okay, thank you.
I've got a question.
Okay.
On the teaching side, we did a little bit of beginners teaching, but we're quite a small club and it's quite difficult to keep it going. There are teachers who obviously charge in the area, but some of them are very good. How would you notify that on the site? Because, you know, it just says teaching, beginner, intermediate, doesn't say whether you pay for it or anything like that.
Okay, so on this site, the focus is on clubs, and we would expect the person to contact the club and say, how do I learn bridge? Now, there are some separate initiatives for teachers. You'll notice this is just a club directory, whereas previously currently we have a club and teacher directory. We have a separate teacher directory, which I'm not discussing today, which is in preparation, which might also help to answer that question. But we want to encourage people to go through the club, because then you've got the relationship. You know, that's the important thing.
I quite agree.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
I think I'll have to cut the questions there till the end so we can move on. But thank you very much, and keep the questions coming. And I will respond to those in the chat. So next we have Barber Rogers from Bakewell. Barber, are you here? Okay.
Okay, you can hear me now?
Yes, we can.
I'm sorry, I'm down on that as Chris Rogers because it's my husband's Zoom.
Absolutely fine. Over to you.
Okay. Right. Well, I was asked just to talk about what we do at Bakewell because we've managed to be quite successful. And I just thought I'd give you a rundown of how we got there. So when I first managed to join Bakewell Bridge Club several years ago, I felt very lucky because it was difficult then to get accepted there. It had very high standards and was known to be quite exclusive. However, many other people felt it was both an unfriendly and an unwelcoming place and wouldn't play there in case they got told off for making a mistake, which did happen. One evening, I and some others were told that at the forthcoming AGM, it was going to be our turn to form a committee as we hadn't served yet. And that's what happened. Before long, it became apparent to us that we'd inherited a dying club as the number of players was dwindling, mostly due to aging or a lack of newcomers. Talking things through in committee, we decided that the club needed to be more inclusive and welcoming, and that we needed to prioritise increasing membership. Not really a difficult decision. First of all, we wanted to give the existing membership what they wanted from the club. So we designed a survey and asked everyone to complete it. The main outcome was that they wanted some variety in play. They wanted low table money and they wanted decent biscuits. And I think that was probably the prime thing. So we introduced either a teams or Swiss pairs competition every month and eventually also participated in the county teams of 8. And we also ran 1 or 2 one-off competitions. We also made sure that the room was comfortable at a reasonable temperature and that good refreshments were on offer, including, of course, the biscuits. We made sure that the committee knew everyone's name and a little about them so they could be greeted properly and made welcome. We kept members well appraised of what was happening by regular emails and frequently asked for and acted on their opinions. Some new people applied to join when they heard from friends how the club was changing, but this wasn't really going to be enough long term. So we did a couple more things. We introduced firstly a host system so that if someone had no partner, they could be assured that when they came along, they would get a game. We didn't want anyone to get out of the habit of coming to play bridge with us on a Tuesday evening. It's so easy to let something else fill the space. And as well, we started offering lessons using the EBU's materials, first to beginners and then to improvers, so that we were gradually drawing new people in to play bridge. Later on, we improved the website. One of our newcomers was an IT expert, luckily, and also hosted some TD training. Our Christmas party was popular, so we introduced a midsummer party as well. And that's it, really. These simple things turned our club around. We're brought together because we love playing bridge, but we're all individuals who want to feel comfortable and valued while we do so. So, to recap, we take the trouble to support people. We regularly ask members' opinions and keep them in the loop. We provide a comfortable environment. There's variety in the play. We offer bridge lessons and we provide a host on club nights so everyone can always get a game. It doesn't really seem very much. It's all very ordinary, but these simple steps have taken us from what we used to have was 4 to 5 tables a night, and we now have 12 to 14. We used to play once a week, and then we went to 2 club nights and gentle bridge, supported play for beginners. We went from a membership of less than 40 to one now of around about 125. So just having a package of ordinary things really was working for us. And then, as for everybody else, along came COVID. Everything closed down. and we directed members to an online game run by county. After about 6 months, we realized we were in this for the long haul and needed to do a bit more. So we investigated setting up an online club game with the help of the EBU. We contacted members, inviting them to play and explaining in a lot of detail how to go about it, covering playing on BBO and registering for the game. We invited them to get back to us with queries, and they did. We were surprised just how many people needed something a bit extra to written instructions. A lot coped well, but others needed more help. Our treasurer, Teddy, and webmaster, Chris, were fantastic. They phoned members, talking them through how to get on the BBO website, all the way to setting up their own table to play social bridge. They used WhatsApp so that they could talk to 4 people at once. When people were happy with that, we explained how to register for the club game. And again, there was a team of us at the end of our phones, helping them with the process with dummy runs and then for real. Everything went well. Our first online game was a success, and the feedback was positive. They wanted more of that. We linked up with 3 local clubs and had a reciprocal arrangement whereby our members could play in all 4 games online. Bridge was now available for them 4 times a week for those who wanted it, and a lot did, including me. After about a month, we could see that we'd only reached, though, about 2/3 of our membership so far. So we contacted the rest by phone, and of those, about half really didn't want bridge on a screen. So we left them in peace. The others were interested, but very anxious. We supported most by phone, but some needed visits. Luckily, it was spring then. People were happy to have windows open and to show the treasurer, Teddy, what their screens looked like, or even show what they were doing that seemed not to work. Very often she was camped outside somebody's kitchen window, talking them through what they should do. She soon sorted things out for them, and soon they were able to play online. Only one person gave up. So we had a flourishing online bridge game, and this attracted other people who joined the club. The standard of play went up and became more intense, as it does. After a little while, we noticed that we had some members who were no longer coming to play. So we set up a more relaxed game on another evening and made it an 8 high, so the more competitive players were excluded. We made sure everyone who could play in that game knew about it, and it's now well attended. We felt badly about the beginners whose lessons were stopped halfway through the course. So we finished the course with them by Zoom with supported play from prepared hands at 3 tables. Each table was supported by one of us, in touch with all 4 players by WhatsApp. It was quite heavy doing that, but it jolly well works. And now we've got those players actually coming along and joining in regularly. So as well as the online club games and the lessons, we've joined with other clubs across the country whose membership was such that they could form about 8 teams of 8. We use NGS levels to make sure teams from them were evenly matched with ours, and everyone enjoyed the competition, winning or losing by only a small amount. And although we want to win, it's nice to have something different to do and to enjoy playing with new people. And we've also supported ECAT's charity Sim Pairs, still remembering to provide variety for the members. So that's really it up to date. So we're looking to the future now, when we're going to be playing face-to-face more. And what we've done is this: we've surveyed our members now every 3 months to ask them if they want to come and play face-to-face. Numbers increase a little every time, but as yet not enough want to do it to merit providing a club evening, which is face-to-face. It's the experience of several clubs, including ours, that only about half the membership is present for any bridge game. So we would need 32 players voting for face-to-face to be sure of the 4 tables, which we think is probably the minimum for duplicate. In case we were wrong, we set up a fortnightly face-to-face bridge session, which so far averages 3 to 4 tables a time only. So we've not been overwhelmed, and it doesn't look as if we got it wrong. We believe strongly that the club should reflect what members want, and we're happy to continue as we are. Eventually, we envisage running a hybrid system so that members can choose how they play, online or at the club. The same hands will be played and the results will be amalgamated. We're starting lessons face-to-face again, as we notice that our improvers seem a bit overfaced by the relaxed 8-high online game. We expect to start gentle bridge as well to support their play once the lessons are underway. We aren't providing a host for online play, but if any member is without a partner, they know they can phone me and I'll put them in touch with someone if I possibly can. We're regularly in touch with our members, but we've found that emails that are sent to a group of people are a turn-off for some people and they don't read them. So we found we get a better response sending the same thing out individually. This is time-consuming, but it works, and the improved response does make it worthwhile. So that's it really from us, part of the story of Bakewell Bridge Club. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you so much. That is absolutely inspirational, and partly sort of oddly because Bakewell, you know, everything you've described is within reach for almost any club, and it's so good to hear what you said. I think everything that Barbara has shared is a gem for us to reflect on and learn from. So thank you so much. Unless there's anything very pressing, I suspect we should move on. So I'm going to hand over to Ian to tell us about some of his research in his area.
Okay, thank you, Tim. I want to talk to you a bit about the current situation and then why I'm an optimist, and give you some examples of what has worked in Gloucestershire in a couple of clubs.
Ian, you're muted.
You're muted.
Sorry.
Let me start again. Okay. The current situation that we have here is much like everywhere else. Table numbers are down. Clubs are mostly keeping going. We only lost one. But I think nationally, playing numbers are down by 40%-ish, something like that. Other observation is that the average EBU members' age is over 70. And I think just doggedly or blindly soldiering on, hoping things will get better or even stay the same, it isn't going to work. We need to adjust to this horrible new cliche we have of the new normal. We've lost people to online, and we just lost some people altogether. But I do say that I am an optimist, and I take heart from several things. First of all, what a great game we have. Also, although bridge players may be aging, I am, it does seem to apply to and be popular amongst older people. We have youth programs as well, but it is popular amongst more the older people, pre-retirement, just into retirement. And their demographics are actually on our side. From 1950 to now, the number of people in England over 65 has doubled. So there's quite a pool there. Also, financially, I mean, bridge is a cheap game. It doesn't cost much to play bridge. And I see that, you know, not all clubs, but quite a few clubs and counties have got more money than they know what to do with in their reserves. So I don't think money's a constraint. We've got funds. And we've also got, there are more social rubber bridge players out there than there are duplicate players. So there's a huge potential there to get more duplicate people playing in our clubs. And also, finally, what bridge players are smart people. You know, we have a huge talent pool within our communities. IT specialists, marketing specialists, ex-teachers, current teachers. If we could just mobilize a fraction of that more, then we've got a pretty powerful situation. So let me give an example of two clubs that I'm a member of both of them. Firstly, Cheltenham. This is one of the largest clubs in the county. It's very successful. It runs a strong, heavily subscribed teaching program with about 100 people. It has supervised play, relaxed duplicate play, normal club sessions, 15 sessions in all each week. Now you might say, well, that's great. There's not much lessons there for most clubs. Wouldn't it be nice if we were that large? So I think, how can some of those features be found in smaller clubs? Well, a small club called Northleach in Gloucestershire has been struggling for numbers pretty much for years, and it would have been finished off by the losses of the pandemic. Losing 40% of the members just wouldn't make a session viable. But pre-COVID, what we did was we designated one Monday, on Monday evenings, a month as relaxed duplicate. And we said we weren't going to play so many boards, it's going to be very friendly. There's going to be tea and biscuits. We hadn't done tea and biscuits before. And we managed to round up a number of social bridge players to come in and join us. And the majority of them have stayed with us. Now, still it's a very small club that struggles for numbers, but it would have packed up if we hadn't got this boost of several new people. And it was something that, any small club can do. So that's just one example. Other examples I've had from roundabout, we heard about the power of biscuits in Bakewell. Well, have you tried cake? I mean, that's even a stronger lure for people, it seems. So, I mean, in my opposite number in Sussex is one of their clubs doing 18 boards with cake. It's been very well subscribed. There's also this mentor or buddy system that you can introduce where it doesn't take many people. I mean, just one person in a small club, 2 people would be great to mentor newcomers, either as a coach or maybe sitting at a table with 3 novices and playing with them and discussing the hands afterwards. Doesn't take much resources, just the right sort of person with the right sort of approach to other people. But of course, what really makes a difference is strong and active committees, as we heard in Bakewell. So just some conclusions. We really need to be more active at recruiting pupils and rubber bridge players. Rubber bridge players are like the low-hanging fruit, if you like. We were all given those marketing materials from the EBU, those leaflets, posters. I mean, are they in all your bowls clubs, tennis clubs, doctor surgeries, local online social media channels? We've got more to do that in Gloucestershire. I'm not saying that we're perfect at all, quite a long way from it, but there's a lot of potential there to use those and provide the paths in. You can't go straight from classroom to clubroom, I don't think. There needs to be some help, some bridge between the two. And face-to-face attendance, has a huge advantage of the social interaction. We need to make it worth going out for, particularly in the winter evenings that are coming. And I think catering has got a point to play. I know in America it's very popular to play bridge and have lunch. But biscuits, cake, just make it worthwhile to come out. And the things that even small clubs can do, if they're dynamic and enthusiastic enough. It was said before, we must all, if we can't provide teaching, we must signpost to teaching. Actively recruit locally. Think about having mentors and buddies in the systems, and also cooperate with other local clubs. I'm trying to get something going here in the North Cotswold between three clubs. We've made a start. We're going to have a joint charity event. They're all small clubs, but by pooling resources and combining with one of the local Rotary clubs, we're going to put on what would be a largish competition with prizes and a cup. We're also, none of the 3 clubs have teaching facilities at the moment. we're going to set up a joint teaching facility, getting two teachers coming out from Cheltenham. We're going to pay them, it's self-financing, and run a teaching thing. Individual clubs can't really, didn't have the resources to do that. Wouldn't individually necessarily come up with the right numbers to make a session viable, but together they can. And then last but not least, if you need more help, come to counties. I'm president of Gloucestershire County. We've got resources, we've got financial resources, we've got expertise in IT and all sorts of things. Ask your county for help as well. That's all, thanks.
That is brilliant, Ian. Thank you so much. Really helpful. Again, it's unless there's anything very pressing, I suggest we move on. We want to keep to within an hour or so if we possibly can. But do keep your questions coming and use the chat. Mark, over to you to tell us about update from EBED on teaching, training teachers and directors for your club.
Good morning, everybody. Can you hear me?
We can.
Good. Okay, I'm Mark Humphris. I've spoken to one of these meetings before. My role is the Education and Development Manager, and I'm with English Bridge Education and Development, which is a charity organisation set up for the furtherance of duplicate bridge in England. So my main responsibility is to organise the training courses for club directors and the courses that train bridge teachers for clubs. Now, I've been with EBED since February. And my interactions with clubs in that time have been absolutely dominated by requests from clubs for director training courses. It seems that one of the big barriers to opening clubs up and playing face-to-face bridge was that clubs were needing to refresh their pool of tournament directors. So we've done quite a lot in that space, and I'll show you how we've addressed that demand. And that's certainly been the main focus of my activity, to get as many TD training sessions up and running, and we'll cover that, and I'll show you where those courses are and where you can still book. But I think you're beginning to hear a theme in this session about how important teacher training is as well. So we recognise that's vital. And we're starting to get some interest in those areas, but there's quite a lot more needed. And I'll talk a little bit more about where we're doing some teacher training and how you guys can hopefully help us set up some more teacher training courses. So firstly, looking at director training, I think the headline message is in 2022, although a couple of these started at the end of last year, we will have completed over 16 tournament director courses in the year. And that actually compares pretty well. I think our best year pre-COVID was 19 courses in a year. So it shows that we're actually getting back to the level of capacity in training tournament directors that we saw in the pre-COVID times. So we've got several courses that are complete. We've completed several already this year down on the south coast, Eastbourne, Bognor. We've done a couple west of London at Windsor and Burnham. That's two separate locations. We've completed Manchester, Stratford, and we've just finished one in Aylesbury. There's a course in Cheltenham running at the moment. That's halfway through. That's got disrupted a little bit by COVID. I know some of the names on here are people that are at that course. So I apologise for the disruption that you've had to put up with there. But COVID is still with us, and it does disrupt our training programs. So we have to remain flexible in the way we respond to that, and we will do. So Cheltenham's still running, but we now have a program for the autumn. So we're taking bookings now for courses at, there's a new one at Aylesbury. There'll be one at Nottingham in September, one at Newmarket. Barbara's contacted me and asked me to set one up at Bakewell, which we've been delighted to do, and she's helped a great deal in helping us set that up. So thanks, Barbara. There's also one in Carlisle. There, I had a lot of interest from Cumbria at one point, although the bookings aren't showing up there. So if you're involved in bridging Cumbria, be aware. Please publicise that event. There is training available in Carlisle starting in September, but at the moment we've had very little interest in actually booking on that course, despite there being a lot of people in Cumbria who asked me about TD training in the past. Okay, so please try and help and support that one. We've got a couple that are in planning that we're not yet able to take bookings for. So Darlington, there's a club in Darlington that are very keen to work with us, and we are working with the trainer. We have a slight delay due to the availability of that trainer, but he hopes to be available and ready to help us soon. So we'll be able to advertise dates for Darlington. Again, that'll be in the autumn. I was speaking to a club yesterday in Leicester, so we've got a green dot there in Leicester. That's something that's in planning. And I have spoken in the past with a club down in Salisbury. That's gone a bit quiet for now, but we would be very keen to run that course in that area. So if any clubs are interested in that area, let me know, and I can get you in touch with the person who's been talking to, and hopefully we can concentrate the demand there and get enough demand to make a viable course there. Okay. The other things we've been doing to help spread our geographical reach is we've expanded our cadre of trainers. So when I started this role, we were using a very limited number of people to run these training sessions. The autumn program will be using 4 people who are certainly new to me. Some of them are new to training directors at all. They're very experienced directors, but they're quite new to working with EBED. Others just haven't been used that much recently. But that gives us a much better spread, and it gives a different experience for the delegates. The other couple of things that I'd like to mention, firstly, we're looking at doing some online training now. So we're running a couple of pilots right now. One is aimed at teaching people to direct online bridge. That's running this week, actually. And we're looking at moving elements of our TD training program to online platforms. That is harder than you might think, but we're also talking to RealBridge now about some developments they have in being able to use the RealBridge platform to simulate TD type issues that you would encounter at a table, like lead out a turn and revokes and call out a rotation. So RealBridge have actually built in the capability to do that now, and we're looking at how we could use that platform to do some more online TD training. That's going to take time. It's not going to happen this year, but it's going to take us a bit of time to work out how best to use that. The last thing I wanted to mention, I do occasionally get interest in what we call advanced TD training. So the program of advanced TD training in the past has always been that people who are experienced club directors typically attend a single day session, which is an advanced TD training session, to sort of just recap the more difficult aspects of TD training and prove that they've really got a grip on that. So we're trying to do those advanced TD training sessions. We've got one that's just about to be scheduled down in Aylesbury, and I'm working with somebody who's going to run one in York as well for advanced TD trainers. So hopefully those will be bookable soon for autumn. And we're aiming towards restarting the county assessment weekend. So the ultimate goal of people that do advanced directing is to become a county, to pass the county assessment. And we're looking to try and restart that in the spring of 2023. So, but there's only so much interest in that at the moment. I think the main interest is for club directors at the moment, and that's where we've been putting our effort. Just the last thing to point out, if you look at that map, of course, Devon and Cornwall seem to have been rather neglected, and I do apologise to anyone from Devon and Cornwall. If you are in those areas, do contact me. There are options about what we can do to provide some training in that area. We may have to work a little bit differently because we don't have people who are local in those areas who can do that. So we may have to look at a different way of doing that training, or doing it over a weekend rather than our normal model, which is over sort of 4 days spaced around over a couple of months. So Devon and Cornwall people, if you're interested in TD training, please get in touch. We will try and find a solution to get your club people trained as directors, but that is going to be a challenge. But I think most of the rest of the country now, we've got a reasonable coverage, so I'm quite pleased with the way we've done that. So let's just talk about the other aspects of EBED's activity here. Now, this is teacher training. So this is the course, the 2-day course that we run to train teachers to teach bridge to beginners in clubs. Okay. What we've done so far, we've had a lot less activity in this area. I get much fewer phone calls about this, a lot less interest in this. However, there are 3 red dots on there for courses we've completed this year, and they have all actually been pretty well attended. So in the end, those courses there has been enough interest to book and for those courses to go ahead. So we've completed one at Solihull, there was one down in Horsham and one in Aylesbury that have been run. There are 2 bookable at the moment. Sevenoaks down in Kent is done very well. We're probably almost at capacity there. So if you're interested in booking to attend the Sevenoaks session, you better get in touch very quickly, because we're about to close the bookings on that. That's gone really well. We've also got a course in autumn at York Bridge Club. That one hasn't been quite so successful. I think we're expecting to see about 6 bookings at the moment. So we need a few more people that would be interested in attending that course. So if you're in that area, or you can get people to York, there are some dates on our website for a weekend in September where you can get club teacher training for people from your club. So please get in touch if you'd like to attend that session. I would like to see that, I'd like to see a few more bookings, because it's going to cost us a lot of money to get a trainer to stay in York and deliver that program. So we need a few more bookings to cover our costs. But the real request now is to the people on the call, if your club would like teacher training, we'd be really keen to host it at your club. So if you think there's a demand for people at your club to be trained as teachers, and you'd like to host an event, get in touch with me and we can try and set something up, hopefully this autumn or later in the year. We've got one more planning that we will do in central London at Young Chelsea, but other than that, I really need some more offers from clubs now to come forward and say, can you run these courses at our location, so that we can get some of our people trained. So typically we look for about 5 or 6 minimum to be a viable number of bookings to make a course go ahead. Sometimes, like in York, it's more than that, because we've got a lot more costs, because we have to pay accommodation for our trainer there. But generally we're looking for 5 or 6 people at minimum to make these courses viable. But mostly we find that does happen. Once a course is advertised, people are prepared to travel and get this training, because it's normally delivered over a weekend. So it's an opportunity for people to travel and stay stay somewhere local to the delivery of that course, and get a really good training session that will set them up as a bridge teacher for either an exciting new career opportunity, or it's a good part-time activity, and it will certainly help your clubs boost their membership by attracting people to the game.
Mark, thank you so much. We're coming to the end of your slot, unfortunately. I've got one question from the chat, which is important to think.
Yeah.
Can we have a simple director's course, please, just covering the basics? Revoke, lead out of turn, insufficient bid. What's the answer there?
We're starting to work that. I'm getting that feedback now. And one of the things we're trying to do is look at a course that can be delivered online that is a more appropriate introduction to directing than the one we've currently been given. And that will cover some of that. So we're working on it, but it takes a bit of time. We've got a lot of technical material to get through. The laws of bridge are very complicated, and we have to work within those laws. So it's not straightforward to do what you want here, but we are aware of the need to simplify things down to improve what we offer. So I'm working on that.
Thank you. Now, I know David's got a question. He's also up next. So, David, maybe you kind of do your question and then sort of go straight on into your presentation, if you would. We're looking forward to it.
Okay. I just want to say one thing, and that is that a lot of us here have actually got experience of teaching online, and COVID has pushed us into it. But that's where we are. And I just find EBED's attitude to this as wonderfully old-fashioned, because we know that we can actually teach these things online. Yorkshire earlier this year, we ran a 3-hour course for all our TDs as a refresher course, because coming back after almost 2 years, a lot of people have forgotten things. And so that was 3 hours. We had 14 TDs, and we went through all the nuts and bolts of it, and it was free because we just got one of our county directors to do it. And I'm just amazed that you're actually talking about doing things next year and talking about minimum numbers and all this sort of thing, because online takes that all away. We know that we actually have existing teaching platforms which are simple to use. We don't need to wait for Real Bridge. It's all there. It's just putting it together, really. So how do you feel about that, Mark?
You're muted, Mark.
Sorry, I mean, David, the issue for us is how do you simulate a lead out of turn or a revoke using an online platform? At the moment, none of those platforms enable us to do that. So that's why we feel that to bring that training into the online world, we need to you know, there's a big gap to be made up for the capability of those platforms. You can't do these things at the moment.
Actually, you can, to be honest.
All right,
just use a simple platform. Yeah. It's dead easy to use.
I'll give you a chat. Okay, I'd love to hear what you've got, because anything that simplifies this and makes our life easier would be worth doing. So I'm open to hearing what you've got for me.
Well, I just worry that you're looking for minimum numbers to make it profitable, and also talking about long distances and overnight stays and all this sort of thing. It just seems ridiculous to me.
David, I'm going to stop you there. We can discuss this separately. I mean, it's good feedback we've heard, but we'll continue with it later. But we'd love to hear your results of your research in Yorkshire. So maybe you can move on to that now. Yeah, you. Muted at the moment. Okay, over to you, David.
Okay, now I've been asked to just supply the nuts and bolts of what happened in 2021 as far as the Yorkshire was concerned. I'm just waiting for the PowerPoint to lift up. Should take a second. Okay, now this, what I'm going to give you now is actually available in full text, and you can get a copy of that by either asking Tim, or my email number is guildbridge2@gmail.com, and send you a full write-up of this. So this is what happened in 2021. In November 20, we met all our teachers and realized that nobody was teaching anything at the time, quite in the middle of COVID. So I went away, and over the Christmas period, I tried to think about what we're going to do to continually involve our teachers and create some sort of volume teaching model. And what I did was built it around the way that universities teach, which is a lecture is given to the mass, and then the tutors give more personalized teaching to their students. And so we put that plan together and made sure that we actually involved the clubs in this. So it went to YCBA approval in January 21. We sold it into the Yorkshire clubs, and 10 of the larger clubs agreed to actually join this scheme. And that covered over 50% of our membership through Yorkshire. So we were busy up to the end of April, actually, the clubs recruiting the students, getting teachers to prepare slides, and that was with the help of EBS materials that we had, that some people butchered, some people did their own slides, but there was assistance there from EBS. Also to pull together people who can help with practice. Very important side of any teaching that is done. Also to set up a mass Zoom account and have Bridge Play, which is our Yorkshire teaching platform. Also getting the students together to familiarize themselves with how to use Zoom and Bridge Play technology. Very important, particularly when they try and use it with the acorn in the attic. So they needed fairly new equipment to actually do that. So that's what we were doing up to the end of April. When we actually set the format of the course, we wanted to follow the Bridge for All course and actually keep to the traditional schedule. So we had PowerPoint presentation lectures on the Zoom, and they were 35 to 45 minutes long. We had 8 teachers involved, each selecting the lesson that they were going to give, so that they actually bought into it as well. We presented once a week, and we did a 10 o'clock slot and a 6 o'clock slot. And then the clubs took their students and broke them out into practice sessions, which they either ran immediately after the 6 o'clock session, or they did them next day. And the practice was 2 hours to 2.5 hours, using pre-prepared hands and with narratives as well. And we used Bridge Play platform and Zoom breakout rooms. So everything was there. As far as the practice was concerned, every club did the same thing. The calendar, we ran, the first sessions were actually run from the beginning of March to the end of April, and the first 10 lessons were free. We wanted to pilot this and just see how it went, so we didn't think we could charge. The students, we started off with 312 students and ended up with 313 at the end of April, because some people actually wanted to miss the first lesson because it was just too basic for them. Then we moved into we had another meeting with our teachers, and decided that we would suggest that the clubs get some fees paid if they wanted to. And the sort of round figure was about £5 per student session. But it was entirely up to the clubs whether they actually wanted to take that money. And by that time, COVID was a little bit relaxed, and one large club actually, said, okay, that's great. We've got the students now. We'd actually take them in-house, and we'd take them into face-to-face training. So we were down to 9 clubs. And their student numbers, we lost a few who perhaps didn't want to pay, or perhaps had enough after the first 10 lessons. And we started with 211 students. But the numbers didn't drop during the 10 weeks. They went to 198, which I think is pretty good retention. We then had a halt for the summer, and some clubs got very close to their students during that time and ran their own additional practice sessions and even some lessons through the summer. But we would still be impressed to actually do the full year online. So we ran the last tranche of 10 lessons from 28th of September to the 30th of November. And by that time, 3 of those 9 clubs decided that they wanted to keep their students face-to-face. They were actually now used to the club environment, and they could stay with that. So our online students went down to 134. We ran those 10 sessions, and we had 110 at the end. We then had an online competition for the students, which was a big fun competition. We called it Big Bash. We had 72 students actually join in that. They thoroughly enjoyed it, and we gave them some small prizes for actually doing that. Now, the lessons learned. The course was extremely well received online, the online course, and both student retentions and transitions were actually above the norms. The clubs were keen to take their students in-house into their own clubs once this became feasible, and few clubs have actually continued online teaching after the end of 21. So in 22, most clubs are actually, well, I think there's only 2 clubs in Yorkshire that are doing online teaching. The clubs that had practice continuity over the summer, those are the ones that have had the best retention results. And it goes to show if you keep close to the students, they'll stay with you. Towards the end of the course, the clubs that were remaining online were experiencing what we call helper fatigue with the practice sessions. It's really all on when you assist somebody online to practice, and certainly the volunteers that we had, some of the clubs only had a few volunteers, and those were beginning to feel it, that they'd had enough by the end of the 30 lessons. I ran a questionnaire earlier this month, and I sent it out to 211 students that were with us at the beginning of May. I also looked on the EBU membership, and 39 of those are now full EBU members. So I sent out the questionnaire to 172 who were not full members. And we had fantastic response. We had 78 respond, which I think is pretty high. And they were actually quite copious in their responses as well. So for the ones that are still playing, they break down is to 13 are only playing online, 10 are only playing offline, so face-to-face, and 25 are playing both online and offline. And that actually is our experience in the club, that in our club, that people do not distinguish too much between online and offline. Some are quite happy to actually dip into both camps. As far as playing is concerned, 13 were playing with friends, 17 were playing in clubs, and 20, again, mixed, playing with friends and playing with clubs. The interesting things for those that are people that have stopped playing is the overriding reason for stop playing, particularly stop playing in clubs, is it's too time consuming. We asked them other questions about, is it too difficult and is it not exciting? But it's too time consuming is the thing that really shouts out to us. Also, 41 of the questionnaire respondents out of the 78 said that they're interested in further online lessons if we prepare them, so to take them up to the next level of bridge. So I've got a nice list there to go at if we want to do that. Excuse me. Of the 78 respondents, 41 gave quite full written comments, and they were all effusive about their online experience. They loved it. They did say that too time consuming was mentioned in their comments 17 times as the reason for not playing in the club. There was also a strong social thread in the reasons for actually why they play bridge. 12 extra people were identified as playing in affiliated clubs, but are not yet recorded as EBU members. Now, before Gordon says anything, quite some of those are actually still students, but have not actually registered as students. For the online future, we know that online opening up and including video is going to engage a new generation of bridge players, and we're quite excited about it. I had a quick look at the USA, and they're doing more and more online, including teaching. And the USA's largest bridge club in New York, they've got 300 active students, and they teach almost entirely online. And I've just included a quote here for their club entry in the ACBL directory, in which they're actually saying that they think that their students love being taught online. Our conundrum is to ensure that our existing EBU clubs are allowed to participate in this new opportunity and are not bypassed in the emerging volume of online bridge, which is growing and is going to grow further. That's it for me. I should actually just tell you what I'm going to do in 22. We are actually looking at, let me just put this one down. As far as Yorkshire is concerned, I'm specific to that. All of Yorkshire first year bridge is fully digitized. It's they've got video for each of the lessons. There are videos, there are hands, there are hand narratives, and so it's all ready to go, really. And we're planning to launch our beginners online course at the end of September 22. And we're going to place our clubs centrally in that development. What we don't want to do is try and centralize everything. We want our clubs involved. And we think the best way of doing that is to actually do it by districts and by having an amalgam of clubs in those districts so that we can actually do some district advertising. Now, we intend to make use of the pre-recorded lesson videos that we've got and follow them up by themed practice sessions. So that's the difference we've got over 21. For 22, we're going to use the videos and then do themed practice rather than use live presenters. So practice helpers are the key to the project's success, and we're hoping to involve more people so that they can have a light touch and we don't get the burnouts that were experienced in 2021. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much, David. Really appreciated that. And there's a lot of hard work that's gone into that research and indeed to the whole programme in Yorkshire. So brilliant that you shared it. And yeah, I'm not sure that I have the materials that you mentioned, David. If you could make sure I have the links and so on, then I can pass them on to anyone who inquires about them. So,
okay, I've got text. So as I say, if anyone wants to just email me at guildbridge2@gmail.com, I'll send you the full write-ups of those sessions.
Yeah, Lovely. And at this point, it's over to you. Well, we're fractionally over an hour, but not very much. Any questions that you had before that we didn't get to, or anything that occurs to you now? Just use the raise hand or type in the chat, and we'll respond.
Mike Tracy's raised his hand.
Thank you. On the issue of training bridge teachers, is there any possibility of doing that online? First thing. Second thing, I have been teaching a group. I started just after the new year. I started with 8 people doing it online on Real Bridge. And when I reached the end of my 12 beginners lessons, I had 6 left. I had to drop 2 to continue. One of the issues I had, and I'd be interested to know how other people deal with this, is if you get someone in your class who really just does not have a bridge brain, they're keen, but they honestly can't do it, and they're holding up the rest of the class. I had to write a very delicately worded email to say, you're lovely and you're talented in many ways, but bridge isn't one of them, and not going any further. Which was painful, and she didn't like it very much. But on the other hand, I had someone in the class who said, well, I ain't going to play if I've got her at my table, because it just disrupts the whole thing. One of the issues that you have to face when in the teaching process is migrating people from the teaching situation into playing in the club. And I remember a seminar we had at Street when some people from the EBU were present, saying it's important that you don't finish up with 2 clubs, one club made up of beginners and one club of experienced players. I'm going to trial my 4 good beginners by trying using an appendix table. So they come and play together as a 4, sharing boards with another table, but not participating in the scoring. So they can play at their own pace. They don't have to play all the boards in each set. If they get tired after a couple of hours, they can go away and nobody's worse off. And if they keep the scorecard, they can then go and compare it with the posted online results. And in that way, they can become accustomed to how a duplicate session works, see that people are not frightening, that they aren't the worst players in the club by some measure, and hopefully feel encouraged to actually join in and play in the club duplicate. There's loads of other things I could talk about, but I think that's probably enough. I will mute myself.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. And I think Mark has already said that there's work underway to do our teaching, training online and so on.
Let me just answer briefly. We do run already an online teacher training program, which I unfortunately omitted to mention during my talk. So we do train using an online platform. We train people to teach bridge in an online environment. So teachers can be trained to do that. Tim Chanter, who's associated with Richmond Bridge Club, runs that program. It ran earlier this year for us and was quite successful, and we will be running another one. So that's my answer to online teacher training.
Thanks so much.
I've got a question on that.
Oh, yeah, I'm just going to go to Rosemary now. She's had her hand up sometime. We'll come back to you, Pip, in a minute.
Thank you.
Well, firstly, I'd like to say thank you very much. It's very inspiring because we've been struggling a bit at Cambridge Bridge Club. We do have lots of clubs in the area, so anyway, there's lots of good ideas. Thank you very much. But I just wanted to ask David, firstly, sorry, I didn't catch what platform you use for the teacher, the bridge classes. I know that Real Bridge have brought in lots of new features, so I was wondering if you were using them. And secondly, how does this feed into face-to-face? Have you been getting more people? We want to try and get more people playing face-to-face. Has this been feeding into more people playing face-to-face?
Yes, it certainly has. As I was showing on that short presentation, a lot of the clubs had actually tried out online, and once they'd got their students and the rapport with them, they'd taken them in-house for their face-to-face training. I actually think that the two complement each other, and that it's really important for clubs to have an online presence and a face-to-face presence, and whether that online presence is done on an amalgamated club basis, you know, within reason, so district level. I don't know, because a lot of the smaller clubs are actually cut out of teaching and will be cut out of online as well, unless we actually get them joined together with a bigger, probably hub and spoke approach.
And what platform did you use? Sorry,
I didn't answer. It was called bridgeplay.uk.
Right.
Okay, and it's one of our Yorkshire guys who's quite IT conversant put this together, and the brief is it's extremely simple, and you can load hands extremely easily, and so they can actually go and play on a bridge play room with preloaded hands and narratives, and actually play themselves, which has been quite useful, because we just leave the room up for a week and then they play, say, 12 boards that are themed, and so it's easy access and it's cheap as well.
Well, thank you. Well, we're sort of real bridge fans because somebody from Cambridge was part of the development team. So
yeah, okay.
Yeah, sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you both. And Pip, Duncan, you had a question.
Yes, a couple really. For teaching online, I mean, I've done the EBED course. I really don't want to spend 2 days doing a teaching online course. All I want is just some simple advice on how to teach online, because I'm not that savvy on IT and would like some help, please. Could you do a shortened course for those who are already qualified teachers? The second one is, I did the teaching course last year, thoroughly enjoyed it. We started off with 20 and 7 finished the course. And what we're doing is trying to get them included in the club. We're doing something very similar. We've got 4 of them at the moment who come every Monday afternoon to our sort of friendlier session. And they play exactly the same boards as the rest of the club, which are computer dealt for them. And then they can compare their scores afterwards at the end. And that works well, and they enjoy that, and that's going well. My question then is, what gap are experienced teachers leaving between finishing year 1 and going on to year 2 of the EBED's courses? Some of my students who completed the course are certainly ready to go to year 2, but others aren't. They're going to take a bit of time. So how are other teachers managing that? I'd be interested to know. Thank you.
I don't know if you have an answer to that, Mark, or anyone.
Yeah. I'm not sure I can answer the second one actually, but just briefly, the idea of a short course, that's a really great idea. Currently, we haven't got that. So the short course that takes an existing teacher and sets them up with the online skills for teaching online, I think that's something we could provide. So thanks for prompting me on that. That's a good suggestion. Okay. I'm not sure I really understand the second question. That's my problem. But perhaps it's something we can deal with offline.
Okay, it's really sort of, it's some people who finished year 1 are ready to go on to year 2, the intermediate course, others aren't. It's how other people are managing that. I'd be interested to know.
Okay. Yeah, we'll find a way to get you some. I mean, part of what EBTA, the English Bridge Teachers Association, offers is the ability to connect with other teachers to find out how they're dealing with that. So so we can. I'll talk to one of my colleagues who might have a way of getting you some help on dealing with that issue. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, now I need to apologise to the group. We asked Tony to share with us some important news about a competition coming up, and I neglected to include him right 10 minutes ago. So I included him now. Tony, please share with us.
You're muted, Tony.
Right, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
And can you see that?
Yes.
My screen share. Okay, well, I thought this was a great opportunity when have so many clubs present to tell you about an event which revolves entirely around your clubs and your players. In the way that it's about every bridge player, in that no other competition that I can think of that the EBU runs is, because everybody has a chance. It's a handicapped event, so we all start equal, and it's an opportunity for players to compete against more highly regarded players on equal terms. So it's something for everybody. And maybe as we start the new season, and Barbara talked to us about the importance of variation in the programme, it's a nice opportunity to introduce something different. So it will work in clubs, and obviously we want as many clubs as possible to support the event and as many players as possible to take part. And here is an opportunity for your club to get involved, either face-to-face. And I realise that on a Sunday afternoon, not all clubs, in fact, probably most clubs, won't have access to their playing venue. So it can also be online using BBO or Real Bridge. And as David had just talked about, we can get groups of clubs going together. So if only one club in the area has a venue available or has an online facility, we could group together to form regional groups of clubs. Anything's possible, but we want as many clubs as possible to take part. So what do? You simply contact Jonathan Lillycrop to register. I think that's correct. Jonathan will tell me if it's not. You just run an absolutely normal session, running the deal file that is provided. You set the start time, you say how much it costs, you take the entries, so it's entirely club based, and then you send the results into EBU, who will produce the results. The start time has to be between, I think, 11 and 3, and the table money is £3 to the EBU and whatever else you care to add on to that. But looking just further one step from that, you might consider making handicap events part of your club programme, again, taking this theme of variation of the programme. And I've got some quotes there from Richard Evans, who's the chairman of Suffolk and also Stansfield Bridge Club, who've been ever so proactive in running handicap events, and you can read what's on the screen. But I like the last comment: the joy and delight of lower ranked players who finish top or sorry, I've got to move the pictures, or in the places. It's a huge plus for any club. I cannot recommend handicap results too much, and they're easy to create. So it could be a one-off event. I hope it will be, but it could be a lead into something more regularly in the club. Blue points are going to be awarded to lots of people. The prizes will be awarded to rather fewer people, but it should be a great event, a nice start to the new season. And I hope very much that your club and as many clubs as possible will choose to take part. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Tony. That was very helpful. And again, my apologies. I do want to follow up just quickly on something Mike shared with us. We teach new bridge players, which is fantastic, but we don't retain them always very well. It's a big issue. We sometimes call that the transition of players from learning to club sessions, or we could also call it retention. It's a super important topic. And I just wanted to reflect on something Mike said, which is that you don't want to end up with two clubs. Well, that has been the conventional wisdom, but while, yes, we don't want to end up with two clubs, I do think there's another factor here, which is that people who learn together want to play together. They often get on as friends, and they often are similar standard. And I am much more open now than I would have said, a couple of years back, to the idea of these distinct sessions with maybe a novice session and a club session, and maybe just accept that one is not going to graft onto the other very well, and have two sessions. There will be migration between them. And it's perhaps not as unhealthy as we might have thought to do that. So I would just say be open-minded about it. If you can get people coming into your main session, that's brilliant. But it's also worth thinking about, we've got a group, they like playing together, rather than trying to force them into something that might not be for them. Perhaps we can form a new group, or even do it with some other clubs that have had learners, and there is a new club that's formed. That is a perfectly healthy process that can take place. So I wouldn't rule it out. Yeah, any other questions? it looks like we may be at a finish. Last call for questions.
Just one thing, Tim. I'm chair of the Swindon committee, but I'd like the committee to sort of see all of this. It said at the beginning it was being recorded. How do I get them to access and see the discussion today?
So Sam, who you communicated with to sign up for the session, will be sending all participants an email with a link in it. And I think, Sam, do you normally put that on the EBU site as well?
Yes, I'll put it on the EBU YouTube channel, and there'll be a short news article on the EBU website, and I'll send an email to everybody that's participated today.
Thanks, Sam.
Lovely, thank you. Well, thank you very much. It's really good of you to give up your time today. I want to doubly thank our speakers who put a lot of work into those presentations. Often the shorter the presentation, the more work has gone into it. So thank you also for being able to fit into the time available. Yeah, keep the conversation going. We really want to hear from you. We've all got phone numbers on the EBU contact page, email address. Mine is tim@ebu.co.uk. We want to hear from you. So keep in touch, and thank you again.